Hey guys, Kyle here. So, just before the show starts, I wanted to mention our Patreon. You can pay us $1 a month as a thank you, as a tip. You can pay $2 a month to get access to one of our bonus content shows, episodes 2 days early, and a secret Discord chat where all of our Patreon donors get to go and hang out and talk with us directly. Then there's a $5 tier that you can donate to get access to a whole bunch more content. We have multiple bonus episodes on there. So please check it out. Patreon.com/itgetsweird. We don't advertise, we don't make money. So check it out and throw some money if you think that would be cool. Thanks. Welcome to It Gets Weird, our comedy show where we explore the unusual, the unbelievable, and the unexplained to try and make your world a little weirder. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Niall, who just took a big old fucking sip of iced coffee right when this episode started. So
Nice.
if you get a little ASMR of some ice clinking in the background,
Yeah.
as Kyle is introducing the show, that's just because we're in chill hang mode tonight. We've got a real chill vibe going on,
Yeah.
sipping on cold bevies.
Sipping
Real
on cold
podcasters
bevies.
do not edit out ice.
That's
You
true,
can't.
actually. That's true. And we aren't a real podcast is kind of the problem inherent to that comment, because so you can edit it out if you'd like. We can maintain our status as not being a real podcast. But I'm happy to hear that you have some cold brew flowing through your veins even. Is that where that shit goes?
Yeah, when you drink coffee, it diverts from your throat directly into your veins. It doesn't even hit your stomach. It's really weird.
That's how I feel sometimes when I drink coffee. Heyo, in the studio with us today is I can't actually, so we're still abiding by the rules. She's not going to introduce herself, but I'll do it for her because I'm getting tired of the shit. I have to pick up all this slack here. Jules is here as a guest, friend of the show. Sorry, can I say
Should I
wife
go?
of the show? Yeah, you can. No. Do you mean leave?
You
or
were
do you mean
threatening
like?
me a second ago.
Oh, sorry.
Jules is or has earned the title of everyone's favorite Decemberist's record, the podcast wife. And
That's good.
So
Yeah.
I think that's just like a really good thing.
No,
to make
it's
clear.
the new ABC spinoff, The Pod Wife.
Yeah, exactly.
Whenever you're hanging out with like the boys, I'm always like, pod my wife, please.
But leave the pod my wife, leave the cannoli. You know? So
That's good. No,
that's like 6 levels of abstraction. Jesus Christ.
that's really good. We could do this all night. But I'm excited. Jules is here. Always a fun time to have Jules. You both kind of, well, you specifically, Jules, reached out to me and you're like, hey, can I come on the show? Is this like a normal episode or is it one of your fucked up freak episodes? And I was like, it's a fucked up freak episode. And Jules is like, I'm in.
Yeah. That's how that goes.
Yeah. So I'm excited to talk with the two of you about what we're going to talk about tonight. Now, you both know me.
It's true.
I'm always looking for like a fresh angle to bring to familiar topics. That's always if I can do that, I like to do it. Eventually,
You like to put a little fun little twist on things that people might know and love.
You love
Yeah.
to refresh a brand.
that's right. That's
True.
And that's kind of when we kind of send internal memos back and forth. That's the phrase that I tend to use is refresh the brand. And today we're going to refresh the brand a little bit, if you don't mind. So this week, what I decided we're going to do, we're going to dig into a cryptid grab bag.
Oh shit.
And
My favorite. How did I know?
I'm excited because we're also bringing back a segment that I think we've only ever done once before.
See, At this point, it's rarer for us to do a segment twice than it is to only do a segment one time.
That's true.
We have zero follow through on anything but the big question.
That's true. Well, I kind of like our method of like constantly coming up with new segments instead of committing to a couple and doing them over and over.
And you know why that is?
Tell me.
Because you love to refresh your brand.
It's true.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. It's
the brand
a way
is, the
to
band,
refresh.
The brand is never stale.
That's
true.
right. Exactly. Like, can you imagine? Oh, he's doing the fucking Kyle's Fears segment again. Great. Another one of those fucking thing. How many of those does he have? It's a bunch, it turns out.
They're all just deep water.
A lot of them have to do with deep water. In fact, this is not a deep water thing, but I did, you know what? Here's the kind of day I've been having, by the way. I woke up after like 4.5 hours of sleep from a nightmare, and I've been up ever since, and I'm just trying to, ride that until I'm honestly, after this episode, I'm probably going to crash. And sorry, people don't like hearing about dreams. So but I have to say, I feel my nightmares are like horror movie X-Files episode in the way the plot plays out. And I had a really fucked up one that I swear to God, it was basically I am trying to date a girl, and she reveals that we met in passing back when I was a young child in my hometown, and that she's been secretly grooming me for a demonic like entity. That's the plot of my
Was
nightmare.
she cute?
Yeah, that was the fuck of it all.
And
like,
so is the demonic entity gonna like join in a throuple situation?
no,
or
I think they were going to take my soul or something. It wasn't like sexy.
Okay.
You're picturing something way more salacious than what it actually was. This was like, I'm going to.
I was about to say he
demonic
said it was a
force.
nightmare, but honestly, a woman,
It's look,
period. A woman. Stop.
a woman is Kyle's nightmare.
oh, well,
I don't know. I was gonna say a woman coming on to Kyle might be as scary as
it is.
anything else.
Yeah, it is. I honestly though, like my day, I feel so fucked up right now, and I think I'm in the perfect headspace to talk about 3 weird ass cryptids. On top of that, I have a cat who I have no idea if the mic is picking up, who is scratching and yelling outside my door right now. I don't think the mic is picking it up, but wow, I've been watching this needy cat all day. So, all that out of the way. That's the
Right.
business out of the way. We're going to talk about some cryptids. And
Woo!
we're bringing back the segment, Niall. I didn't even get to finish.
Oh, true. I interrupted you and totally.
No, that's
derailed.
okay. That's okay. We're playing Guess the Cryptid category. So
Okay.
if you will recall, I don't remember which episode it is. We had an episode where I did sort of a cryptid grab bag, and then I think I threw it back to you and Garrett and said, "Hey, what is the unifying category for all these cryptids? What do you think I was going? What was like the metric you think I went by?"
So we're gonna guess the theme of the cryptids this week.
Yes.
Spoiler alert: it's familial trauma.
No. It's not
Generational trauma.
No, sadly, I can't segue my own shit into from the weird demon dream. Unfortunately, I don't know why I'd be having nightmares about demons. It's not even like demons don't feature heavily in the Jewish faith, so I don't know. I don't know. I think Hereditary kind of scarred me. I saw that a couple weeks back. So, anyways,
I do like. I'm sorry, but I do like you theorizing that you being Jewish dictates what would appear in your dreams.
well,
Yeah, it doesn't have. They don't really have domain on your subconscious.
That's-
all the
I
time.
think
Fair.
that dreams are pretty non-denominational
That's
most
fair.
of the time.
That's fair. I'm just thinking about the sort of psychological upbringing as a person
Yes.
raised a Jewish American, whereas I feel like if you were raised just about any Christian denomination, demons, you'd wake up and go, "Oh, well, that makes sense. That's scary for me."
Do you have
So-
dreams about demons?
Not really. No. I was raised Baptist, but Baptists don't really talk about demons that much.
Maybe they should.
Or at least maybe others do. I was, whatever.
I was going to say, I grew up going to church, and I remember a lot of talk about the devil.
Yeah,
Oh, sure.
The devil is definitely more common than
demons.
Oh, that's fair. But
Angels are common, and sometimes they'll
true.
say angels and demons are battling for your soul or whatever, but I don't remember specific reference to like a demon will do this. I remember the devil will do
devil.
this.
Everyone open up your text this morning. We're starting the Lesser Key of Solomon, going through the demon index.
That would be sick. That's what I would, if I could go to church, that's what I would want to do, is read about all the different demons in the Lesser Key. That would
If
be
I
fun.
could go to church, I'd be married to Hosier right now.
Oh,
Is
fuck.
Hosier Christian?
I don't know what that means.
Well,
No, he
Hosier
has
did
a
that
song called
song.
"Take Me to Church."
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Ugh, God.
I randomly find out like pop stars and rock groups are secretly Christian like once a year, so I just figured I was due.
No, I mean his whole "Take Me to Church" is about church being bad, isn't it?
I don't know.
I don't know. I think he's a Zoroastrianist.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just what I heard. Anyways, I don't know where this is all going. I
And
feel
just
like
for any lawyers listening, any of Hosier's lawyers listening, this is not a real podcast, so you can't sue.
Hosier
The
is listening, but he's-
aristocrats. I don't know where this is going. I just look. I figured it was just go with the tried and true.
I drag this show down. As soon as I show up,
literally-
it's like I bring you into the mud.
No, Jules, hardly. First of all, everybody's always excited when you're on here. Second, I began this tangent by going, nobody wants to hear about my fucking dreams, but I'm going to tell you anyway. So, anyways.
So at the end, we're gonna have to guess
at
what
the
ties
end-
them.
And frankly, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. This is in lieu of a big question. We're just going to the big question is going to be, what do you think the unifying category is between these cryptids? And I'll give you a little hint up front. I did try to be tricky in a way. And the other thing that I would say is I'll give you a hint. I'll give you a couple tries and errors or something. Maybe we'll see when we get there. I don't know. I'm playing.
There's so many rules to this
There's a
game.
lot
And
of
I'll tell you
rules.
something else too. This game, it kind of sucks, but
All right.
Kyle, do you have any more caveats before you start?
Yeah.
Or
Do you want
hang
to take
on,
the
let me
pressure
go-
off anymore?
yeah,
Let me go down my ledger here. No, I think that's all I wanted to get through in this one. Niall, Jules, starting off this grab bag, we've got a creature known as the Gulf of Mexico living fire hose. Yeah.
That
Hmm.
there's
oh yes,
there are certain things where like you start talking and I'm like, my brain tries to autocomplete what you're gonna say.
Yeah.
And anytime that every time I try to guess, I'm wrong and it goes in a different direction, it's impressive. And that happened like 3 times over the course of just saying
Hey.
that. Because I was expecting like a lot of times it's this place monster or this place
Yeah.
demon or this place dog man or whatever.
have you ever had a living fire hose on the show?
No, we've had Mike Watt on the show of Firehose, but not anything else.
That is such a
Boo.
hey, shouts out to the fire hose fans listening.
Yeah, if
You
you,
know-
love fire hose, fuck you.
Hey, Firehose has tracks.
Look, the other unintentional theme I'm realizing with all 3 of these cryptids is that it'll be impossible for you to autocomplete the names. They're
Okay.
weird motherfuckers.
So just to let you know, that's not the.
But that's not it. That's
Gotcha.
not it. So I guess that's your first hint. We can resolve that when we kind of get to the multiple steps that lead into the final question.
That hint was put onto the playing field and turned sideways to be put in play.
The
and
term is
now we're moving
tapped,
on.
Niall. It's
I know,
the
but
term is tapped.
I didn't want to stumble onto any intellectual property that would get us sued by Wizards of the Coast.
That's
so
fair.
I
That's
tried
fair.
to like generalize it, you know?
That's fair. So this story of the Gulf of Mexico living fire hose, it's said to originate from an internet message board around the year 2000. Now, The actual written origins that I could find of this story comes from a publication called North American Biofortean Review. This is in the second issue of the second volume, published in the year 2000. And in this newsletter, we've got cryptozoologist Chad Arment, who alleges to have interviewed the anonymous user who posted this story online. Now, I couldn't find any evidence of any forum post or website where this was like originally posted.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of just have to take Arment at his word that he was able to get an interview with this anonymous poster. And you kind of have to just take it at face value that the message board in this original post even existed, because I sort of am inclined to believe it probably did, because it seems to have prompted this like interview. Whether or not the interview is real, I can't say. To make things even further removed, though, the original post is said to have been a story that a friend told the original poster. So it's not even a story directly from the person who claims to have experienced it. It's from a friend of that person.
And so he interviewed the guy who heard the story from his friend and posted it,
online.
Not the actual friend who saw. Okay.
Correct.
So there is no first person narrative here. It is okay.
Nothing. This is we're a couple degrees away from reality here. So this person's friend supposedly encountered something bizarre while working as an undersea welder for Gulf Oil back in the 1970s. And here's what they say from their what they told Arment. I used to have a friend who was at one time an undersea welder for Gulf Oil in the 70s and did work on the oil rigs way out in the Gulf of Mexico. He gave it up because he was seeing things down there that were beyond his ability to comprehend and even describe. And he wasn't the only one. At one oil rig, the welding crew were getting used to seeing this, quote, giant headless glowing living fire hose that would zoom in from out of nowhere at incredible NASCAR speeds and would keep on zooming past the welders for up to 15 minutes. My friend then said he finally saw what ate giant headless glowing living fire hoses, like what eats them.
Mm-hmm.
One scary day, he ended up catching the first helicopter back to shore. He never saw the ocean ever again and was thankful. My friend George Hale, who died in 1994, was unable to describe this predator in detail. It was too big and too close to him. It was as big to him as you are to an ant. As a matter of fact, he had to ascend PDQ, that's pretty damn quick, because he was in fear of being crushed like a bug. But the predator had a pallor and skin texture like a sea anemone, and it might have been built along the lines of a starfish or a freshwater pond hydra, and it was eating the fire hose entity by swallowing it. Its method of propulsion is a mystery. So,
big giant underwater shit like that is like my number one.
A little scary.
Although I was on the newest season of Taskmaster.
Yeah.
Emma City gave me a phrase for what I always say. It's not that I'm scared, but I am. But it's not that I don't like it, because I do, about really big stuff.
Yeah.
I've always had a really hard time describing it. Like, it makes me nervous, but I really like it. And she calls it platonic arousal.
Yeah.
And she said that she feels platonic arousal about like mascot costumes.
Okay.
And
okay.
I was like, platonic arousal, that's like the perfect way to describe it. That's how I feel about giant shit like this.
Yeah.
Just picturing it makes me feel all like woozy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Simultaneously intrigued, but a little scared, like a little nervous. That's how I feel about just marine biology, but especially like lower depths marine biology. I will actively seek out videos of that stuff because it makes me sort of intrigued and uncomfortable simultaneously.
Just walking around in the aquarium when we went down to like those lower levels where the eels and shit were, creeps me out. Like,
awesome.
But in a great way. Like where I like am excited to keep going.
Yeah. I know that feeling.
I just like to imagine this big starro motherfucker slurping up the living fire hose like a noodle and just like, slurping it all the way in. It kind of like, the tail of it's like flipping around as it's getting sucked in and smacks the thing on the side of the face and it's fully slurped in.
It's very cartoon. I'm sort of imagining that this thing was using the thing like a big straw and it drinks ocean water like most sea creatures, and then it accidentally inhales too hard and sucks the straw in, and it's like choking, like, so ever do that?
It's like when you use a Twizzler as a straw. Like where you use the thing for a while and then you eat it. Yeah.
Or like those chocolate things that they put like with Nesquik or whatever back in the day. Do you remember those? It's like that.
Sure.
It's just like that.
It's just like that. This story is basically a twofer. Since whatever the predator was that ate the living firehose was also unidentified. So what I like to do with stuff like this is like, what if this story is true? What do we think he saw? So there's some speculation online. So one of the things that people think he may have seen was, they say it sounds a lot like a thing called a salp, S-A-L-P. They're also known as sea grapes. And these guys are cool. So they kind of look like jellyfish, actually. But what they do is they group up in clusters or even these long chains. And this results in them looking like one long tube of a creature.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'd never heard of these things before, and I think they're pretty fucking cool. They're not jellyfish, but they're sort of like a plankton.
They look like those things you get at Spencer's that you could like stick
shove
your
up your
fingers
ass.
in.
Oh.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about now.
Those like plastic toys that are like a tube and they will be like filled with some kind of clear liquid and stuff.
Yeah.
I remember I had like a light blue one that had little fish in it.
Yeah. I remember
they were like
those.
squeezy toys. That's
I
what they
love
look
those things. Those were fun to play with when you were a kid, and fun to drink.
Yeah, you shove,
I used to use one as a straw, but then when I sucked too hard, it went all in my mouth, down my throat in one go.
And then what's fun is you can kind of double straw it, where you shove a straw through it, and then like a Capri Sun, and then you drink the inside of it.
That's right.
So I do like that these things have like a human centipede, like Voltron form, where they just like chain together into one long ass fucking noodle.
Yeah, it's really cool. They also like form sort of like cylindrical shapes a lot of the times. They just actually look like jellyfish when they do this. And just a couple fun facts about these creatures. They're apparently, when I was reading about them, it was saying that they have the most efficient example of jet propulsion in animals, which is a crazy sentence. But what it means is like they have these gelatinous bodies that they constantly contract and they'll push water through them, and it lets and that is like a form of jet propulsion. That's how they move around. The other creature that matches the description in the story is a very similar thing. It's a thing called a giant pyrosome, which is another planktonic colony creature, and it tends to form in these long, large tubes. You actually maybe this is just indicative of the kind of internet that I was looking at, but back in 2018, there was like I want to say viral image of divers encountering this long, massive trash bag looking thing in the ocean. And it's like, no, this is actually a creature. That's what a giant pyrosome looks like. And what's interesting is they're also bioluminescent. So, and like very bioluminescent, like they give off like red, blue, green there, and they're bright. So they can be seen quite a ways away. So yeah, that I saw the picture on the phone. Yeah, that's what it looks like. And apparently they're not the most efficient at jet propulsion, but they are like one of the most efficient creatures at filter feeding. So,
and that would scare the shit out of me if I saw
it. Would be scary. It does for me make me feel a little better knowing it's not one organism, but rather a bunch of tiny little guys. Like if you see that thing and you think that's one guy and it can swallow me whole, that's scary. Oh, that's a bunch of little guys who are kind of like feeding on, their own kind, but smaller. Oh, okay. I can kind of deal with that. Maybe I'll stick my hand in that and see what it feels like.
I think there is something to be said for that, but there's also, if you think about it the other way, like a colony or a hive mind is also, in my mind, pretty fucking terrifying. Yeah. So it like, I don't know what's worse. A big, like, it's really kind of a one T-Rex sized dog, like dog, or 100 dog sized T-Rexes kind of situation here, where there might be a slightly better option, but they're both.
I think usually the animal is smaller than a dog when you say that. A dog-sized T-Rex is pretty bad. Like one of them is pretty bad.
Yeah.
Usually it's like a chicken or something, like something really little.
Fair. But you understood what I was saying.
No,
it comes
I was
across.
Confused.
That's fair.
You should be more clear next time.
I will.
I've seen dogs smaller than chickens.
But if we're talking about a bunch of little things isn't as scary as one big thing. Tell that to fucking Tippi Hedren, bitch.
That's so
You ever seen The Birds? You ever seen a little movie called The Birds?
Hey,
that's fair.
Here's an interesting question. What's the default dog in your mind? If somebody says dog.
A Labrador.
A Labrador, Niall?
See, for me, it's one of the dogs I had growing up. So it's either a Schnauzer or we never quite figured out what Sammy was. A little white runt.
Yeah. I picture Labrador
R.I.P.
too.
Yeah.
Sammy passed away.
Oh, did Kyle
not know that? Oh, shit.
Oh, Kyle, we're breaking this live on the pod. I'm so sorry. Sammy passed on.
Yeah. That sucks.
Sammy was a good dog.
Sammy was a good dog. An anxious dog. The type of dog that I specialize in.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
rest in peace, Sammy. So, this thing of I'm trying to I didn't have a good transition.
you had to take that one on the chin and keep going.
And just keep moving. So the thing about the giant predator is there is no analog in known nature for what they were describing, like a starfish type creature that would be that size. One of the things that I sort of think about this one is a lot of these cryptid stories lend to exaggeration because you're freaked out. They're freaked out in the moment, and it's hard to judge size, and it's probably even harder to judge size when you're underwater. So who knows what happened there? It's also harder.
Yeah, a lot of guys have told me that before, and
well, it's speed too, which you can go ahead and make the joke about that as well. So no, but you get what I'm saying, right? Where it's people kind of misidentify that stuff in these cryptid stories, and in the heat of the moment, it's freaky, right? So I could imagine seeing something like this, and then maybe a fucking, I don't know, maybe they saw there's those giant filter feeder whales that and maybe it just swallowed the thing whole. I don't know what happened here.
Yeah. But especially when you're already freaked out by the first creature and then something bigger comes across, I could see that you're primed already for fear at that point, and so you're going to be less accurate with how you recount the second one because you're already in kind of fight or flight.
Yeah. If you take the other thing that people say, the most boring theory is that oxygen shortage, which is a common thing when you're diving down and stuff in the ocean, or pressure can cause hallucinations. Again, that seems the most boring one to me. But the actual big problem with the theories for any of this is that neither pyrosomes nor salps can move at the sort of speed that Mr. Hale was describing. So what is anything...
It would also probably feel like it was moving faster if you thought that it was coming towards you and knew that you were in danger.
Yeah, for sure. So you'd
be like, this thing was hauling ass, and it wasn't. It was just gently floating towards you.
It was just floating towards you and filter feeding, and doesn't have any way to conceive of your existence.
Mm-hmm.
So did this
Is it more boring that he hallucinated, or was it more boring if he made it up? Genuine question for you, since you said that's the most boring.
I think making it up is more boring, but I also think that the fact that we can literally never know with this one, it's almost not worth speculating too much, because this is basically internet urban legend at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's who wrote... The name of it just flew out of my head. Oh my God. The Harry Potter fan fiction.
My Immortal?
Thank you. It's the author of My Immortal. You don't need to know their name.
Yeah, and you don't need to know if they're if the writing in there is authentic or not, or ironic, right? Like you don't need to know. It's funny.
It doesn't
regardless.
change
Yeah.
Exactly. It doesn't change the object being what it is.
So we'll probably never know with this one.
Yeah, I mean, the thing we know for sure is that this thing is the Maya mortal of the cryptid community.
Exactly.
That's all you need to know.
I have another thing that's maybe a little that could also kind of slide that way if you wanted to.
Oh, is that the theme? We just made we scoped it out in the first go.
I will tell you when we're in theme guessing mode, okay? Not now.
Yeah, now shut the fuck up.
Not now.
I'll
sit down and shut up and fucking listen.
Yeah.
Please, for once. No. Next up, we have my favorite cryptid name maybe of all time. If not number one, it's in the running. This is a creature called the Nameless Thing of Berkeley Square. The Nameless Thing. The motherfucker
I was
sounds like a
gonna
magic
argue
card.
with you, but that is a Kyle ass fucking. You
name.
do like that, yeah.
It currently is in the running with solar plexus clown gliders, which is just like a fun, another fun little cryptid that's mainly an internet urban legend.
I like the squonk.
The squonk is also very good. I don't think I know.
It honestly, if solar plexus clown gliders, I think is what it is. I might be missing a word. It's one of those things where it's just like it's a bunch of words jammed together.
Okay.
It honestly probably could have been an Internet Experience Deluxe. Like it's one of those kinds of things.
Okay, I had never heard that. That's a completely new one to me, so I'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
So this creature, it has some unique stink on it. Obviously, the name is pretty wild, right? But this is another one of those stories that, depending on who you're talking to, some people will interpret it as a strictly paranormal thing instead of a biological being. But I want to kind of talk about the cryptozoological version of this. But it does require talking about some paranormal shit because regardless of what the thing actually is, the location that it's been seen at is a purportedly very haunted place with a lot of strange stories surrounding it. So it's 50 Berkeley Square, which is a townhouse in London. And like a million other haunted locations, stories will boast about how this place is the most haunted location in London. There are multiple stories about multiple like deranged spirits that haunt this place, but here's just a few to give you an idea of the vibes here. The most common and frankly boring ghost story is just this claim that a woman committed suicide in the attic and that her dissatisfied ghost still roams the halls, right? That's pretty...
Yawn.
Oh, another suicide? Next.
Been there, done that, honey.
Heard it a million times.
Oh,
why don't you try
did she lose a child too?
Oh, yeah. We're getting to the child. Just hang on.
Okay.
Why don't you try a grisly murder next time, sweetheart?
Please. Limbs removed or something, or killed in an interesting way. Like, come on.
Cattle mutilation, maybe. Like, fucking, let's go for it. Satanic rites.
Do you think that mutilated cattle have ever come back to haunt fields?
I hope so. I feel like that's one of those like philosophical questions that you just have to like sit down and ponder for a meditative state, you know?
It's very philosophical. Yeah, it's I don't know. I mean, we kind of have to discuss the possibility of ghosts that aren't human. Personally, I've always just assumed that ghosts require like a human level consciousness. But like maybe cattle get like picked up by aliens. Their consciousnesses are expanded. They're planted back here. They die. They come back as a ghost cow. I don't know. Just spitballing ideas here. So yeah, there's the suicide.
So
lady.
you don't think all dogs go to heaven?
I hate to tell you this, but I think basically every dog ends up in hell, like their own sort of version of hell. I hate to say it, like people are gonna want to like that.
What's funny is I meant that you were implying that dogs wouldn't even have a ghost.
Oh, sure.
Because you said you need a human level consciousness. Yeah. But no, you're saying they do have ghosts, but they all go to hell.
Yes, that is unfortunately
That's really too bad. I hope Sammy is okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Sammy's become overlord of hell. We all know this.
Oh, good. Good.
So yeah, suicide lady. The most common and frankly, Jesus, I'm going back in my notes here. Another story claims that a man was locked away in the attic and was only ever fed through a hole and never let out of the attic.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Really spicing things up here.
Really spicy. He apparently died by going mad. That's what the story says, and he dies and becomes a ghost inevitably, right? So if I was kept in a room and people were just shoving food through a hole and that was all I could do is just eat whole food and like sit in a room all day, I would go crazy and die as well.
I don't know. I would just hang out and jack off, but I guess
fair.
I'm built different.
Wouldn't that get boring after a while?
Well, I would jack off to death. I still am
That's
dying
okay,
in this
fair.
scenario.
Yeah, you by dehydration instead of madness.
Looking like a dried up sort of husk by the end of it all.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Just
warp the wood floor forever, though.
Just coming dust by the end of it, just like.
Yeah, like a. Did you do a?
Yeah.
You did one too.
Yeah.
I couldn't hear it over the mic, but I recognized the stance. I got it.
We're on the same level here.
The final story that I saw was it's basically just a servant who worked in the house ends up killing a young girl for some reason. In some stories, it's like this servant goes mad as well, kills a young girl. Young girl's comes back as a vengeful spirit. Classic stuff, right?
It's the servant that had to shove all the food through the hole, and so that really wears on you after a while, and you go mad and start killing women.
Exactly. So all these stories tend to originate somewhere in the mid to late 19th century, and it's been suggested that the ghost stories were the result of rumors surrounding its owner at this time, a guy named Thomas Myers. So there are these like accounts of Myers, like these people would basically say he's exhibiting abnormal behavior, and that really only goes as far as he sleeps during the day and he stays up late at night, and sometimes at night he like makes noises, and that's like as weird. That's his abnormal behavior. So people are like, yeah, he's super scary, super haunted house because this guy, is a night owl. And then legend would even have it that he would go mad himself and die in the house after being rejected by his fiance. So plans to get married to this woman. She says, actually, fuck you. Your house sucks. And I hate that you stay up all night. And he just dies. So
this man was truly born in the wrong generation. He was born to post, and he never got a chance.
He would have done numbers on Tumblr, dude.
Yeah, this guy would still be alive if he had access to the internet. However, he would be an alt-right chud.
Yeah, and he goes insane and dies too in this version of the story because people are constantly accusing him of being an Australian online, and he's like, "No, I just stay up late."
That's true. He's on a different schedule, and also he hardwired his house so his toilets flush the other way.
Yeah,
and he's
that
posting
really
videos confused a lot of people
of his passion project with his toilets.
And he keeps saying "crikey."
Crikey, mate! I'm not an Australian. I just have weird toilets. I like the word crikey, and I stay up all night. Shut the fuck up about the Australian thing.
Yeah.
So the house would end up falling into disrepair in the later half of the 19th century. So you combine all this weird shit, and you've got a nasty haunted house with rumors abound. However, cryptozoologists suggest that the place may have attracted more Forteana beyond the paranormal, as if ghosts weren't bad enough.
So in this case, ghosts are drawing other forces. Is this one of those things where like is there a correlation there, or are they just saying
they don't?
Happened?
Nobody really makes that leap necessarily. It's like all the stories online are just this vibes of like, yeah, this place is a confluence of bad energies. And so maybe that's what drew a cryptid there. And then other people are like, it's not a cryptid, it's some sort of spirit. But the thing is, if it's a spirit, then we have to reassess what spirits are, like we did with the whole ghost dog thing. Like it's because it's a creature, it's not a human, whatever this thing is. So there's this often repeated story from 1840 where this man named Sir Robert Warboys is dared by his buddies to spend a night in the second floor room that was supposed to be haunted. He only was equipped with a candle and a pistol, and he was like, all right, bet, I'll do it. And I guess they set up a guard outside his room to keep him honest, I guess is the idea.
Okay.
I don't know. It's like, you're not leaving the haunted house. Like, we're going to have a guard stay up all night outside of the room where
We're going to feed you through a hole in the door.
We're going to feed you through a hole.
You can only jerk off twice.
Yeah. And we're going to be keeping an eye on you through the hole to make sure that you don't do it more than twice. But hey, go ahead. If you want to 2 times, that is fine. So
shake it once, that's fine. Shake it twice, that's okay.
Shake it 3 times.
You're playing with yourself.
Exactly.
You know?
Wise words. So, they have this
Can't believe I
guard.
just quoted fucking Good Charlotte.
I have a tramp stamp with that song.
Nice.
Yeah,
Is it those lines?
Weird, I haven't seen that at all.
Yeah, I guess you've never seen me naked. You just asked me that. Like, huh?
Yeah, that was bad. Yes, ending. Back to comedy school.
We're still saving it for our renewal of vows.
Yeah.
Like,
where I've taken to eating raw potatoes in the meantime. You know.
Yeah, raw potatoes, and the Good Charlotte tramp stamp does not come out until the renewal. So I respect it. So in the middle of the night, the guard hears some noises. That's as much detail as we get. There's some noises in there. And then suddenly there is a gunshot. And the guard frantically kicks the door in and bursts into the room. And he finds a freshly killed Warboys. And his face was said to have been twisted in an expression of horror. And this is a death attributed to the nameless thing. Now, we don't get a description of the thing here, but we do in another story. So, the creature, when it gets described, is from a story in 1943.
Okay.
And here is the description of the nameless thing. It's described as being, quote, an amorphous being, formless and slimy, which emits a gruesome, sloppy noise when it moves. So,
okay.
Go ahead.
So this thing is so basically have a blob that kills people with fear.
how big?
That varies from account to account. They did this, especially in this story, they don't give you a specific size, but you can find an illustration of the thing, and it's basically coming through a doorway. And if you picture the average doorway, this thing is like a little over halfway above the halfway point of the doorway in height. And it looks like an octopus creature that has a slimy trail.
Okay, so kind of a cephalopod situation a little bit.
Yes, right. They straight up liken it to a small deformed octopus that can pull itself across the floor and leave a viscous trail in its wake. So the cryptozoology angle of this is speculation that this thing may be some sort of freshwater octopus or an amphibious marine animal that somehow managed to get from the Thames in London's sewer system and then come up through the plumbing into this townhouse and then go on to live inside this place and attack anybody who comes in. This is after the owner who all the rumors spread, this is after he died, the place fell into disrepair, and an octopus monster took up residence with a bunch of fucked up ghosts that all died in horrific ways. That's the idea here.
And we're on story 2 of this thing, and it's 100 years apart, approximately.
Yeah.
It was 1840s to 1940s.
Yeah.
So this is an octopus creature that has been living on land for 100 years.
Yes. Well, and if you look at cryptid fanatics posting about this, they'll be like, well, maybe it's not one creature. Maybe it's been able to, have children in this place. Mm-hmm. Because in a lot of the stories, what they'll say is the lower levels of you'll hear it in this story, the lower levels of this place are like damp. So they almost like set up like a good space for a creature that has sort of a marine bent to it to live here.
Okay.
So this story comes from 1943 when two sailors, Robert Martin and Edward Blunden, basically are out on the town. They're supposed to use their money to get like in an inn somewhere or something, but instead they end up going and getting drinks and blowing all their money. And because they have no money left, they're like, well, what are we going to do for resting, for sleeping tonight? They end up running across this house, which has been abandoned in Berkeley Square, and they break into it. And this is where the detail in the story is like, they go inside and they find that the lower levels of this house are damp to the point of like discomfort. Like you can't like rest here. So they end up going upstairs to the second floor where things are a bit drier and way more fucked up and haunted. Now
those are your two choices. You can go downstairs and have it be wet, or upstairs and have it be haunted.
Yeah, it's down and damp or higher and haunted. You choose.
Yeah, exactly.
So they both, I guess, are kind of paranoid upon entering this room. They're getting a bad sense of things, but they just decide, hey, we're going to open up the window, let a breeze in, and we're going to sleep here. We're going to forget about it. So they go to sleep, and then sometime after midnight, Blunden wakes up and sees the door to the room creaking open, and there's this sliver of moonlight that's creeping across the floor, and he becomes very scared. He manages to wake the other sailor in the room with him, and they both kind of sit up in the dark as they hear a weird, moist scraping sound coming closer to them. And I guess later, Martin would describe the sound as if it was, quote, dragging itself across the floor. And so they jump up, and that's when they see that the thing creeping into their room is just this fucking tentacled monster. And this thing sort of like, it's described as undulating, and like getting in between them and their exit of the doorway. And so Blunden goes to reach for the rifle that he brought with him, which is what he had used to prop open the window frame. And as he does so, this creature jumps right at them and just latches onto Blunden's throat. Now, in a panic and seeing this happen, Martin just fucking books it, screaming. Sure. And eventually he runs into a police officer as he screams, running from the house. And the police officer is like, what are you on about then? And
what's all this then?
Mm-hmm. And Martin takes the police officer back to the house, even though the guy like doesn't seem to believe him. They go back to Berkeley Square, the townhouse, and they go up the stairs and they cannot find Blunden. And what I found really strange about this story is this story specifically says it's in the fourth floor room. All the haunting stories from 100 years earlier say second floor. I don't know what happened there, but in both stories, they make it sound like it's like the uppermost level of the house. So did they add more over the years? I don't know. So
the Nameless thing likes an open concept. It did some remodeling.
The Nameless thing.
So sue him.
There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not judging. I just want to know the facts,
He went on Love It or List It.
I don't know what that is, but I can kind of guess based off the context.
The title tells you most of what you need to know.
Yeah. So they're looking around for this guy, can't find him in the upper levels, and they end up going down into the basement. And down there at the base of the stairs, in the sort of rocky wall of the cellar, they find the dismembered corpse of Blunden. His head has been viciously wrenched over to the side, and they both describe that this man died with a face that was just covered in sheer terror, frozen in a grimace. And so that is the story where you get more of the octopus creature thing. I found that it was like, why does a supposedly haunted building also have a cephalopod cryptid creature that's hiding in its walls that comes out to kill people or drive them insane? And here's the thing, I can't give you a great answer, but I did see people speculating online in a way that I thought was kind of interesting. So you can just call this a hoax or just like rumors that got out of hand, whatever you want to do, right? But somebody made this suggestion based off of a real event, that there was like a time where these sort of like macabre stories would get published in places and people would take them as real.
Okay.
And they made this suggestion. Now, here's the thing. There's no evidence that there's a story like this, but if you think about it, it's sort of like Lovecraftian, right? Like,
right.
It feels a little Lovecraftian. This person online made this suggestion of like, hey, that's happened before. There was a short story by Edgar Allan Poe that was published in 1845 called The Facts in the Case of M. Valdemar. And in this story, I honestly want to read this because in this story, a mesmerist experiments on a dying man using mesmerism and putting this man who's dying into a hypnotic trance at the moment of his death. And in this trance, the man dies but remains in this state of like half life, half death. And he's able to answer questions and it ends with him like begging the mesmerist to end the hypnotism and like put him to sleep.
Okay.
And when the mesmerist
Spoilers.
okay. When the mesmerist ends his hypnotism, the half-dead man literally melts away because he decays instantly.
That's sick.
It sounds awesome. And I guess that the story, because it was published without any indication that it was fiction, folks ended up believing it was real, and what resulted was basically a hoaxing that was kind of unintentional. Or I don't know how intentional Poe was being here.
He was a prankster.
It's true. He
was always doing pranks on set.
Fucking putting people
He's the
under
proto
brick
George
walls.
Clooney.
Yeah. He's always fucking going, oh, hey, check out my wine cellar. Psych. And then putting some shit on you.
Wow, good Casco Amontillado joke.
It's an epic prank. That's a story about an epic prank.
It's a story about an epic prank. People didn't want to fucking go over to Poe's place because anytime he tried to give guests wine, they assumed, they're like, oh, based off of true events much? I don't know. So people avoided having a nice what's a type of wine? Zinfandel.
Amontillado is the type in the story.
Right. So
I've actually been in a house. I've been in.
Me too. I've been in a house before.
Been in the Poe house.
Oh shit! Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's not crazy far from where we live, and it's so fucking small.
Oh really?
It's like. It is so cramped and tiny.
Wow.
And the staircases are tiny and the rooms are very small. I guess Edgar Allan Poe basically lived a lot of places because he was broke, drunk, and didn't really have anywhere to go.
He died penniless in the streets, didn't he?
Jesus.
Yeah.
He should have gone on Love It or List It.
True. He should have. You
probably
maybe would have loved it.
That would have been nice. So this is some kind of, reaching speculation, I'll admit, but I liked the idea because that is how a lot of like cryptid UFO stuff, there's this sort of mixing up of science fiction or fiction into reality that kind of happens with a lot of these stories. And so it's an interesting idea, but who knows? Maybe there really is a squid octopus monster thing in the walls of this haunted house. But the thing is, after this 1943 story, the nameless thing is never heard from or seen again. So
interesting.
Things gone.
I mean, how many times have we seen like UFO sightings that then you find out a short story or a movie came out like a year or two before this sighting that was oddly similar to the thing that was recounted in those. Like, it's such a common thing in this world that like fake sightings will influence pop culture that pop culture will influence other sightings. Like, there's this kind of Ouroboros of sensationalism and fiction that leads to a lot of the stuff that we talked about on this podcast.
It would make like that same thing happening with like the fiction of H.P. Lovecraft does kind of make some sense. Like I could see it. Yeah. So, but who knows? Who knows?
Let me ask you for some real tea.
Yeah.
Would you fall for War of the Worlds?
Now?
Either one, I guess. If you were alive back then, or if a similar thing happened now.
I think if I was alive back then and like fully living in that era, I probably would. Now, changing nothing about life and reality, just that I'm being told that there's an alien invasion. I don't think I'd believe
now
it.
In this woke fake news fucking
I would it's like some lib cuck type shit, some woke bullshit. H. Holmes. What's his name? Wells. It's like
H.G. Wells.
HGTV. I would
love her to list it. Back to it again.
Yeah. No way would I believe that shit.
Yeah, I think like isn't the whole thing with that it turns out that it wasn't actually like they didn't really convince it.
I think
it didn't cause nearly the uproar that it has been reported.
So maybe I think it was more. So I actually was reading about this not too long ago because it came up in some sort of UFO research thing that I was doing. And I think that it was not like national like level of freak out, but I think it was a little more local than that, but people did freak out. Is my understanding. But it was not like when you hear that story, people make it sound like the entire United States was about to collapse because people thought aliens were invading. And I don't think that's accurate at all. But I think, I can't remember where. I think it was a local radio station that freaked out like part of a town. So
yeah, wasn't it on the West Coast? I think it was. Like
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I should maybe that would be a fun. Maybe we can find a way to make that a part of an episode somehow. Because I've always wanted to know the truth behind that whole fiasco.
I think you could just do that as a topic.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I'm just thinking for like, making a fully fleshed out topic. Because like, you know what? You know why this came up for me actually? Is we did an episode recently where I brought up these people in the 60s who were convinced by a Chicago area radio show that they weren't convinced, but they were kind of believing that this celestial body that was coming near the Earth was an alien ship, and that they could like communicate with it or something. Do you know what I'm talking about, Niall?
Mm-hmm.
It was a couple episodes back,
what it was called, but I remember
it was the CIA UFOs series that I did, and like I think that was brought up in an article I was reading because they were like, there was some suggestion that maybe part of the reason the CIA intervened on that particular scenario was that they were worried of a more widespread freak out akin to what happened with War of the Worlds. So, I don't know. Anyways, good thoughts. We have one more cryptid though. One more.
All right, let's hit it.
And this is the kind of cryptid where I kind of almost felt like I hit the jackpot finding this. This one hails from our old stomping grounds, Niall. This is the story of the oil pit squid.
Okay.
So I got an article here from the Herald Bulletin, which is a paper from Anderson, Indiana.
Oh, okay.
The article is titled Creature in Plant 9 Pits, written by Ken de la Bastide, and published March 5th, 1997. And here's what it says. And I'm just going to read what this says, and we can discuss it, because it's very interesting. An internal Indiana Department of Environmental Management memo confirmed a, quote, creature of unknown origin or type was found in sludge pits at Delphi Interior and Lighting Systems Plant 9. Both the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and IDEM confirmed Tuesday that General Motors workers found what one employee described as a, quote, squid-like creature when the pits were being cleaned in November 1996. The Herald Bulletin obtained the internal IDEM memo, which was dated Monday. A 30-year Plant 9 worker said the earthworm-colored creature was 6 to 8 inches long with tentacles and possibly eyes. Several current workers said the pit contained antifreeze, stripper, oil, and polyol, which is a chemical mixture used in the formation of the plastic bumpers. The 30-year employee said the sludge pit had several of the creatures, one of which was taken out, killed, then placed in a jar where it sat for several days in the work area. However, it was later stolen. It was a shock that anything was able to survive in the pit, the workers said. There were several of them swimming in the pit. Sharon Morton, a spokeswoman for Delphi 1 in Detroit, said plant officials said when they were draining water from the pit, they found a bacterial growth. Quote, they described it as the type of bacteria that would form when organic matter is placed in fresh water. They consider it harmless. Morton said the fresh water got into the pit when a sprinkler line broke. Morton confirmed the sample, which was collected November 15th, disappeared in early December. She said Delphi 1 officials followed normal security procedures for a theft in the plant. However, she added, since there are no leads, the matter is not being pursued. Tamara Ohl of EPA said she questioned GM about what was found in the sludge pit during a February meeting in Anderson. They did find something in one of the pits, Ohl said. GM collected it and were going to have it sent off and tested to confirm what it was, but the sample disappeared. Ohl said the discovery of the living organism is not directly related to EPA's planned inspection of Plant 9 for toxic materials. When they clean that pit, if GM finds something, they will take another sample and have it tested, she said. They also want to find out what it was. Ohl said she never ran across anything like this before in her work with EPA. Jo Lynn Ewing, a spokeswoman with IDEM, said an IDEM inspector will be at Plant 9 this week to look into a complaint alleging hazardous material spills and will check into the report of the life form. It depends on what we find, Ewing said. I don't know if it was just lost or if GM is trying to cover it up. I'm not concerned that GM is trying to cover something up. We're hoping our inspection will provide some answers. Morton said Delphi 1 will cooperate with the 2 environmental agencies. Our preliminary visual inspection revealed the specimen to be a harmless common bacteria, she said. We're troubled by the theft of the specimen, which is delaying our ability to resolve the issue. We will cooperate fully with the EPA and IDEM in their investigation. So that's the story.
Who's the Mark Ruffalo of this?
The squid.
Squid?
They're putting him in like a little squid suit and they're using movie magic to shrink him down super small and cover him in oils. And he's just like, don't kill me, I'm a squid. And maybe they think they kill him and they put him in a jar, but he escapes in the middle of the night and that's how the sample gets away. And it's just Mark Ruffalo, the squid's journey around Anderson, Indiana, learning about dying, industrial towns in Indiana. Makes his way up to Gary.
Kind of a homeward bound situation, but with kind of an industrial waste bent.
Yeah, which
honestly is the interesting reboot we've been looking for this whole time.
There's a nice poll quote from Roger Ebert saying best homeward bound style film since Homeward Bound. They got Mark Ruffalo in a squid suit the whole time.
So this thing is literally supposedly a squid-like creature that thrives in antifreeze and plastic chemicals.
Yeah. Pretty weird, huh?
Okay.
So the sort of like initial explanation is that water got into the thing and was able to like gestate bacteria.
Right.
But when you talk to anybody who claims to have been there and all the workers that are quoted in the article, they're like, it's a fucking squid animal.
Yeah. Not a bacteria.
No.
I see that. Okay.
So it's a weird goddamn story. It's as they described. This thing was found in a sludge pit, supposedly. And this was all the result of worker complaints about hazardous waste being mishandled at the plant. So this story breaks, but only after the sample of the creature just straight up disappears.
Do you honestly not know why I said Mark Ruffalo?
No, I kind of missed it, and I just kind of kept going.
You remember Dark Water?
Oh yeah, Jesus Christ!
I didn't see
Dark
that one.
Water. It's basically Spotlight, but for microplastics.
Okay.
So it's Mark Ruffalo's an investigative person trying to break the case of.
But there are these farmers who are saying that the company infected their water and like killed their cows and gave them cancer and stuff. And he is a lawyer representing them because they are saying that there's a corporation covering something up by hiding samples of the water and stuff. And
I see.
fucking with the results. And so that's what this sounds like to me. So I said, who's going to be the Mark Ruffalo of this cause? Because Mark Ruffalo in real life, it was a real cause that he took up, that he wanted to make this movie because he is a politically active guy.
Sure.
So I was saying, who's going to do that for this cause?
That's a good
But
question.
you guys both just went off on Mark Ruffalo in Homeward Bound, which I liked it.
This,
but it's not quite the Dark Waters actual analogy.
But I
you're
love
making.
that neither of you knew why I said Mark Ruffalo, but you were like, "This is fine."
Yeah. Look, you want to legitimately know what I thought when you said that?
I do.
Which also is not what we ended up talking about. I was thinking of Mark Ruffalo as like as his role as the kind of likable nice guy in romantic comedies in that era. So I was thinking of like the
Who's gonna want to fuck this fish?
Yeah,
or,
like
okay.
that was kind of the vibe I was, that didn't make a lot of sense to me for the story we were telling.
But also, right now, I think you know that if I was gonna say that, I would say who's the Tom Hanks,
Yeah, true.
because I just watched You've Got Mail, an absolute classic of the Sean.
Well, the Tom Hanks would be a lovable worker at the plant, I think. Who has
Yeah, and he'd be damn good at his job.
yes, and he has a strong relationship with the lesser mentioned character, the city of Anderson. And
My favorite thing about that movie is that like Anderson is like a third
it's
character.
like a third character.
It's kind of a Shape of Water situation where you have Tom Hanks as the human lead, the squid as the monster lead, and then Anderson as the town backdrop character that shapes the whole romance.
It's I think we really got a great movie cooking here. And Jules, just to be clear, when you said who's the Mark Ruffalo, I was like, oh, which character in our story is most suited to be played by Mark Ruffalo? And I was like, well, obviously the squid.
And that seems like something I would ask.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Although
why would I?
It's kind
why
of an
would I
insane
pull
thing
Mark
for me to
Ruffalo
think.
right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, like both of us took massive leaps and asked no questions, and then just barreled on with whatever
kept
we
That's
wanted
good
to decide.
radio.
Yeah.
Good radio is you pick a point and you stick to it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you have a strong opinion about it.
So the good radio isn't then dissecting why and the thoughts that you were having and the thought process of each person individually after the joke happens.
Yeah. No,
Is that not good radio? Okay.
it could be. Depends on what you want to get out of radio. So yeah.
Mark Ruffalo. Fuck it. It's a Norbit situation. Mark Ruffalo plays all the parts.
Yes, it's all Mark Ruffalo.
I could watch that too. He even plays the city of Anderson.
Yes.
So yeah, the oil pit squid, which is what this thing is called, experiences brief but in somewhat intense popularity. The tabloids pick it up. The Herald Bulletin, to be clear, is not a tabloid, which is why it's like incredibly odd that this story is a thing, right? But it gets picked up by tabloids and then like repeated back in a bunch of papers. And it was a big enough deal for the people in Anderson that apparently copies of one particular tabloid that featured a story on the squid, The Sun, completely sold out in the town. People were just straight up calling ahead to try and secure a copy the morning of.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, they were just very much clamoring to be like, hey, we're Anderson, Indiana. People are mentioning us, you know?
Do we know what was on page 4 on that issue? Was there another reason people were wanting it?
I don't know.
Do you not know this? Okay.
No, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure the Sun is one of those ones that has like bikini photos on a certain page that everyone talks about. And so I was just curious if like, had a really hot bib that people were really clamoring to get that issue.
That is entirely possible. And it could have been that people were looking for the double horny whammy of Squid plus Babe.
Yeah.
Like
It was Mark Ruffalo in a bikini.
And it was Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah, he plays all the parts.
Ruffalo spread.
Yeah. It's there's a shade of Mark Ruffalo in this movie being represented like the like mid to end point of becoming John Malkovich, where it just has John Malkovich's head on like whatever body is happening. I think that's the vibe.
Yeah, I think that's about right. So you'll find a lot of people posting online claiming to have seen this thing or know somebody who's seen this thing. I have a completely unattributed quote here, so take this shit with a big grain of salt. But here's a quote somebody online said. I live in Indianapolis. There's a manufacturing town called Anderson about 20 to 30 minutes north of the city. This story was originally told to me by a guy that I work with and lives in Anderson. At the Delphi plant, they had a tank they used to store byproducts and chemicals from making bumpers. They found several squid-like creatures in this toxic goo. One apparently had an eye. The specimens were taken and no one ever saw them again. No word was ever sent as to what it really was. There were a few of them. They apparently were somewhat transparent and resembled squids, about as big as your hand. These chemicals would not be conducive to any kind of life. It's called the oil pit squid. So, big as your hand. I don't know how bacteria like clusters work, but that seems kind of crazy to me. But you find a lot of people talking about this in the same way of like, I heard about the oil pit squid, or literally you can find on one of the cryptid wikis, somebody going down there and being like, my dad worked at that plant and he saw that thing put in a mason jar.
My cousin's roommate in college fucked that thing.
Yeah. And yes, it looks like a tiny squid version of Mark Ruffalo. And that's kind of how we clicked. They clicked, not we, they. Really can't confirm the veracity of this, but I wanted to give a big shout out to a guy called Dan Noland. So I found his like personal website, and it's just him like blogging and talking about tech stuff. His hometown is Anderson. He talks about this saying like, I remember hearing about this, but not being able to find a lot of info online. So this dude goes to the Anderson Public Library and just scans and uploads everything that he can find on the oil pit squid.
Oh shit.
So I think
thanks, Dan.
Dan offers, here's from his website. Dan says this about the thing. I think it's pretty good context. It says this, quote, "To put this in context, Anderson was one of those dying industrial towns in the Midwest. The city bootstrapped itself into a manufacturing powerhouse by leveraging the large deposits of natural gas that were discovered there in 1897 as cheap energy for manufacturing. They squandered the gas, which ran out in 1912, but electricity soon took its place. Many manufacturing companies lived and died in the town, but General Motors was the undisputed king. It employed 23,000 people, literally 1 in every 3 adult residents, and had factories so numerous that they were known by their numbers rather than names. For a variety of reasons, GM began to reduce its investment in Anderson, and in 1999, it pulled out completely. As it shrank, so did the population, from a high of 70,000 to about 56,000 currently. Anyone with any sense knew that GM wasn't exactly being a good environmental steward. This fact was made impossible to ignore in 1999 when Guidelamp, another subsidiary of GM, released 1.6 million gallons of water loaded with sodium thiocarbamate, a chemical reagent for removing heavy metals from contaminated water, into the White River, resulting in an enormous fish kill stretching somewhere between 40 and 100 miles, killing an estimated 4.6 million fish, or 187 tons of fish.
God damn.
So,
wow.
Hearing that makes me think that maybe what happened here is that there is something fucked up in this oil pit, whether or not it was a squid, and it got disappeared so GM wouldn't get in trouble.
Yeah,
that's
that,
and that's why we need Mark
Ruffalo.
It's true.
So we need him on the case because there is no follow-up with environmental agencies regarding this incident. We have no answers for the oil pit squid.
In that initial article, too, you had a classic quote, which is, GM wants to know what it is just as bad as you do.
Yeah.
They only say that when they are definitely covering something up.
Exactly. Yeah. And like people online who are more cryptid brained will speculate about like mutated earthworms or unknown parasites, or like the article suggests, an actual big clump of fucked up bacteria. Or maybe this is a hoax of some kind. Who knows? But can't be denied, this shit caused a stir in Anderson. So that is the Indiana oil pit squid. Those, my friends, are my 3 cryptids for this grab bag. Now,
So you've shown us your Cryptids 3. Now it's time for the riddle where we have to figure out what
Yes.
the theme was.
can you solve my riddle? It's time for Guess the Cryptid category. Going to ask you what the theme of these 3 things are. I'll give you 3 chances, and if you want, I can give you a hint.
Okay, so like this is.
Are we on a team or are we playing against each other?
Oh, that's a good question. You didn't actually specify
I
that.
think.
Are we playing against Kyle or each other?
How would you play against me? I know the answer.
I know. I'm saying,
That's what I'm saying.
We're
We're
trying to get your question right as a team.
I think you two
against
should
you.
play as a team to kill me.
Okay, great.
So he said that there's kind of a trick here. He tried to do a little.
I tried to be a little tricky.
So
Well, here's the thing: they are all wet,
yeah, they are
but
all wet.
he
and
can't mean that.
They're all vaguely octopus / cephalopod like.
But that would be too easy.
That's the too easy thing. So I think there is an undercurrent of I heard this story from somebody. There's not like a direct source.
that they're
for everything.
secondhand accounts.
They're all baseline secondhand accounts.
I would point out that the last time we did this game, the answer was that all of the cryptids that I mentioned in the episode were humanoid, flying humanoids.
right.
So there's one.
So
more.
it might be that there's.
It could be that they're all kind of squid like. It's kind of Squid Game.
Does it have to do with how many arms they have, Kyle?
Do you want me to answer that?
No.
Okay.
I want to think about it some
Okay.
more. They could all be
hey,
played by Mark Ruffalo.
They could
Yeah,
all be
true.
played by Mark Ruffalo in different ways, and that
But
is-
that's just true, like of most
Yeah,
things.
he's got
most
range.
because he's
animals.
got he
Yeah.
has the range, honey.
Now, do you want a hint at all?
No,
Okay.
I think you want to give us a hint.
It's not
Yeah,
that.
give us a hint.
Do you want? I mean, I'm just.
I actually
offering-
do. I
Okay.
sincerely do.
So, here's the hint. The hint is that there are cryptids from other episodes that would readily fit in this category for me. Not for me,
Okay.
but like they would fit into this category as I've determined it.
Great.
So those cryptids are Organism 46B from Lake Vostok in the Antarctic.
Okay.
The atmospheric
I'll-
beasts like sky rods and sky jellyfish, or even the Tasmanian globster, or really just multiple different globster type cryptids, probably.
Okay. So all of those things are so the 47B is a giant squid that is intelligent and attacks people. The sky monsters are also jellyfish-like creatures. So like we're dealing in the world of squids and jellyfish with all of these. So I think the common theme has to do with that. But I don't know, are jellyfish and squids both the same thing? Like, are they part of a larger category, or are they completely unrelated creatures? Do you know?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't either.
There is a commonality between them that is the theme here.
They're squishy.
I like where your head's at.
Boneless.
Oh.
They're all what do they call those things?
Boneless cryptids?
Invertebrates. Yeah.
Is that your final answer?
I like boneless as an answer. Boneless is
Rather than the bone encrypted? It depends.
Yeah,
It's like if you're going to be getting like a crispy fried up one, you want bone in, I think. But if you want like a more of a nugget experience with a cryptid, you want boneless
Yeah.
for sure.
boneless is better.
I mean, they're all.
I mean, if you're going to be driving, you kind of like boneless is easier.
yeah,
sure.
you can just pop them
But
and go.
It's a
here's-
good,
If you're not driving, which is
yeah.
normally how I eat chicken, it's it's look, I want the nugget, the boneless nugget experience. if I'm going to be dipping into a sauce. But if things are pre-drenched, like in a buffalo sauce, I want bone-in because I feel like those stay crispier and stuff longer when they're bone-in. Maybe I'm crazy, but
I personally don't think whether it has a bone in it has anything to do with crispiness.
Sure.
I think that has to do with the fry.
Okay, fair.
But
I will say also that boneless is a very good answer that's very close to what I'm looking for.
So we either go with squid-like or we go with boneless.
These are guys that wriggle. They jiggle.
Yeah. They must be jelly because jam don't shake like that.
That's right.
Niall did say the word I was looking for.
Squid-like, I think, is the way to go here.
Cephalopod.
Which one do you want to go with? I'll go with
I like squid-like.
Okay, let's go with squid-like.
Squid-like? Okay.
Yeah.
Not what I was looking for, but I do want to kind of give you both a point here because, Niall, you straight up said invertebrate earlier.
Invertebrate.
These are all invertebrates.
Boneless.
And boneless, no spine. Spineless sacks of cowardly bullshit. They are spineless freaks. Invertebrate.
The moral backbone of a chocolate eclair.
Yep.
Which a chocolate eclair would, I think, be classified as an invertebrate.
Yep.
Unless you get
My
a
favorite
bone-in
cryptid.
chocolate eclair.
Bone-in.
Bone-in chocolate eclair. Oh, God.
Crunch.
That's fucked up. Yeah, I went into this looking at the category of cryptids that were considered invertebrates.
What if all of my bones were creme pat and chocolate eclairs were filled with my bones?
See, I just imagine opening a restaurant called Bone In Donuts, which all of the donuts have bones.
Oh, fuck.
and that's just gonna haunt me for a while
the sister
now.
store for Voodoo Donuts. The Voodoo Donuts are the representation of your donuts, which have bones and souls.
What if? Now here's an idea. What if we tried to do bone-in donuts, but it was like okay, like I appreciate the comedy angle of bone-in donuts, literally with bones in them. But what if we made like a long, crispy donut bone? You know what I'm saying? Like that you insert into like a long john, and
kind of like a cannoli shell.
Yeah,
a cannoli shell would work. Here's what I was gonna say.
Okay.
Make a skeletal frame of churro and then surround it.
There
in
you go.
Donut.
A churro, or like a cannoli would be sort of like the bone of a donut in a way, or a churro,
which makes
like
the cannoli cream kind of the bone marrow of the bakery world.
I think this is a concept that's never been done before.
I do too.
And I think that we need to get Bobby Flay to back us.
Yeah, we're gonna pitch Bobby Flay both on this and the Philly chili cheesesteak, which is still something that I think should exist.
I agree.
So
I had a chili dog, double dog, chili because it's snowing outside today, and chili because I put chili on it today when I made it. So it was a chili dog. That was when I made it was a chili dog.
You had a Sonic the Hedgehog
Sonic the Hedgehog
chili dog.
Chili Sonic the Hedgehog chili dog. I'll call you my dog.
Okay, this is going off the fucking rails.
Rough.
Rough. That's my dog. Yeah, so invertebrates was what you were looking for.
We did all that great talk about bonelessness, and then I steered you away from invertebrate.
Look,
I'm sorry.
You said the word. I'm going to count it. This was the oh, fuck me.
Niall wins.
Invertebrate cryptids grab bag. There's not a ton of them, to be honest. We're running low after this episode.
Most cryptids have bones.
That's true.
We can say this.
Yeah.
You heard it here first, folks.
And thank God, really. These boneless freaks.
Some have too many.
Are slithering around in oil pits and sucking up, fucking underwater welders and all kinds of fucked up stuff.
All right. So you want to look? Yeah, let's take care of some business. I like when episodes just come to a sputtering halt. That's a good time to end them. So if you want to follow us on social media, you can follow us on Twitter at IGW Podcast.
You can follow us on Facebook.com/It Gets Weird Podcast.
And we're on all your favorite podcatchers. If you listen to podcasts somewhere, look up It Gets Weird, and we're almost certainly there.
Twitch.
You fuckers on Blue Sky?
Oh, yeah.
We are,
Good point. We're on Blue Sky. You can find us under It Gets Weird. We just have It Gets Weird on Blue Sky. So check that out. We're on Blue Sky. We're also on twitch.tv/It Gets Weird. We stream on there every once in a while. I try to stream at least once a weekend if I can. But holidays coming up, it's going to get busy. So give us a follow in all those places. Definitely try and use Blue Sky more than Twitter these days because Twitter's a dumpster. Also, another great place to contact us. itgetsweirdpodcast@gmail.com. Check it out. Send us a story. Send us whatever you think is cool. If you want us to read it on the show, we'll do it. If you send us something good, let us know how we should address you. Don't send us dog shit, basically. Anything that's not dog shit, it'll probably make it on the show. But most importantly, you got to check out patreon.com/itgetsweird. This is where you're going to be able to support us, keep the show going, keep things ad-free. It's the best place to go if you want to support us. We have a $1 tier that's just a tip tier. You're saying, hey, I like your show. Here's $1. Thanks for doing what you do. We also have a $2 tier where you get some bonus content. We have a show called It Gets Weird TV. Right now, we are going through a weird TV show known as Neon Genesis Evangelion and talking about all the weird, esoteric, alien conspiracy shit in there. As a person donating at the $2 tier, you actually get to vote on what weird show we watch next. But if you want even...
And all you fuckers who didn't vote for The Prisoner this time, I'm going to come and hunt you down. I came so close to having The Prisoner be rewatched in my house. And instead, Evangelion is what is happening.
Well, yeah.
So anyone who didn't vote for The Prisoner, I'm going to write you personally.
I would love to watch The Prisoner for the show. Honestly, there's few shows that we've recommended for It Gets Weird TV, like put on the polls, that I wouldn't be down for. And we've already...
And I'm just kidding, of course. They're all good. They're all good shows. And everyone who voted is a perfect angel. And I'm giving you all little kisses on the tops of your head.
But she would prefer if we do The Prisoner reasonably soon.
Yeah.
Next time, tell me it's in the poll more than 5 seconds before the poll is over, because I would have campaigned for that shit. You guys just put it on the poll and didn't even tell me.
Well, okay.
So we figure you get the emails, you know?
And I also figured that there's enough like sort of weird like voter suppression type shit going on in real life that we didn't need you going in and trying to rock the vote. You know,
I will put my thumb on any
here's
scale
the thing, Jules,
available
here's the thing,
to me.
You doing this right now, I think guarantees that we end up watching The Prisoner next.
Yes.
So,
yeah. Now that everyone's favorite, well, you and Garrett are everyone's favorite It Gets Weird hosts.
Yeah, I just need to get the Garrett endorsement.
And so as long as Garrett doesn't
can drop in the Discord that he thinks that you should watch The Prisoner. Now that would be
because here's the thing. Garrett could split the vote.
Could.
If Garrett throws his weight behind a different title, it could split the vote in a way that we then end up watching X-Files season 3 because you kind of split the third party vote. So you guys need to get together and form some kind of coalition to be on the same thing that will then topple in popularity both Kyle and I's opinions.
I'm putting in a goddamn Gundam to fuck this whole thing up. So also Garrett doesn't listen to this show. Who are we kidding?
Yeah.
Hey, neither do I.
I'm just kidding. So that's the $2 tier.
Oh yeah, we're in that.
That's the $2 tier. At the $5 tier, you get that show plus another show that we're calling The World of Weird, where Niall and I talk about whatever the fuck we want for at least an hour. It's great. We talked about all kinds of shit. It's been a good time. So please, $5, best bang for your buck. Both tiers, you get tons and tons and tons of backlog episodes. If you're like, oh shit, I gotta go over to my family's place for Christmas time. God, so boring. I wish there was a podcast I could donate to and listen to their whole back catalog of. Knock, knock. That's the It Gets Weird Patreon calling you. Patreon.com/itgetsweird. So please check it out. If you can't donate, though, tell your friends. Wait, fuck, I forgot. You also get access to the Discord where we're hanging out, chatting with our listeners, and you get access to the show 2 days early on Friday instead of Sunday and your own little Patreon feed. Those are important things. Whether you donate to the $2 tier or the $5 tier, you get that stuff as well. So please check it out. But if you can't donate, tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your congressman all about It Gets Weird podcast.
All right. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for continuing to support the show. This has been It Gets Weird, and I've been Niall.
And I'm Kyle signing out.